In December of 2020, the undead necropolis appeared for the first time over Eastern Plaguelands since about 2009. This, for me, was my entire goal of playing Vanilla Classic. I had heard for years about how hard this raid was. There was still, even after a decade plus of private servers, so much obscurity and misinformation for this raid, and that's what made it so cool. I can still remember my first time seeing it. I can remember our first night in there vividly. We went 4-15, completing Spiderwing and Noth, but what stood out to me was pretty much everything about the raid. The raid atmosphere was fitting. The huge raid filled with intricate details all around every nook and cranny. It was absolutely living up to the hype. There was a lot of weight that went into Naxx, though, that had not been felt in any raid prior. There was a lot on the table every night. Now, if you were in a super guild that steamrolled at week 1, you might not have felt this. You definitely probably felt the drama that came with a lot of Naxx, but you probably didn't feel the struggle of slugging through Naxx 40. Something that I learned quickly is that Naxx would ravage our guild like a plague. The War Within released in 2024, but for a lot of guilds, in Naxx 40, it came out in 2020. Naxx 40 is a true test of what kind of composition you have and how prepared your guild is. World Buff Saff is a night and day difference. It is to this day the only boss in Era that even after 50 plus kills on my warrior, that I still hold my breath around. Going into Naxx, we had a relatively large officer turnover. I mentioned this quite a bit in my videos, but our server was incredibly small. You had what you had, and running with a warm body some nights is better than none. There was no just recruit better players, as there was literally no players in the pool. Alliance was so inconsistent at dropping hearts that we solely relied on the much larger horde population for them. And I really want this to be remembered when I tell some of these stories. One officer, right before Naxx, and we'll call him Bo decided that popping greater shadow pots on Lotheb had been us becoming too sweaty. We either had to buy him gold for his consumes, or he would no longer show. And I just want to be very clear. This was a man in his 30s, a father. This wasn't some 16-year-old kid, this was a grown adult who shared these feelings and did what I'm about to talk to you about. He then proceeded to try to form a coup guild that would take place after this ended and we went into TBC. And this coup guild, I love this story because it took over 40 wipes to kill Magtheridon weeks into phase 1. To form his coup guild, he would do things like purposely not heal tanks or people with world buffs. And his thought process was it would rage bait us. He thought we were very sweaty, so he thought we'd get very mad at him. And that would be a way to be like, hey, isn't it crazy how they're overreacting about this? It's just a game, dude. You should come raid with us. We're going to be way different. And what this did was it actually just made everyone around him hate him. Out of the players we'd lost in the coup, none of them are players we would have fought to roster. And this isn't to say I didn't like any of these people, but one of the negatives of becoming a part of guild leadership is people performing poorly and acting poorly. It really affects you more, because when you do log reviews as officers, you will start to see all of these things hey, he's not using this 2 gold consumable that would make it way easier on our healers and not let him die at these certain points. And that would be something really frustrating, because it's dude, I'm spending all this time doing this stuff for the guild. You can't spend 2 gold doing that. And that's something that I think probably every guild leader has dealt with. Maybe not all, but it's a sucky feeling. And, just to be clear, I'm not talking about Bo and the consume thing, because that wasn't an issue with him. And I'm sure there's a point where you're watching this and you're thinking, man, when was enough enough? Sure, people aren't respecting your time, but when are you going to respect yours? And here's the thing with that. There were a lot of people caught in the crossfire. They wanted to clear the raid, but they were upset with the progress or lack thereof. So every bad night, I'd be flooded with DMs from key players telling me how upset they were and how they're only holding on for me. As sentimental and nice as that was, it actually just added a metric weight ton to my shoulders. As a bad night would feel bad, but I'd also feel pressure of essentially keeping those people here for me. And I want to be clear, like, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back by saying that, or, you know, like oversell my importance, but that was something that I would actually deal with, and it felt kind of nice at times, but more often than not, I'd feel super guilty. Like any of those kind of, you know, semi-challenging fights, not really even challenging, but kind of sketchy ones, like, you know, Four Horsemen or Patchwork, I would be just like sweating, just kind of like praying we didn't wipe so that these people wouldn't be upset. The night we killed KT, however, was one of the most cathartic gaming moments of my life. I remember killing Saffron. We had done it once before and had a few week break of not doing it. And this was a really dark time of raiding for me, because I had at this point just sold myself that we, you know, and dealt with the fact that, like, hey, you know, maybe it's just not going to happen. Like, my dream was probably, you know, not going to be met. It wasn't in the stars. We had our shot. We blew it. And it's going to sound really extreme, you know, even silly, but I do remember, like, I was just crying happy tears when we killed Saffron for a second time ever, you know, with absolute ease. And we just marched into KT's room. Like, I was just so overwhelmed with happiness and emotion that, like, I just started crying, because I was like, you know, this is it. Like, I could just feel it. Like, I was like, this is it. This is the night. Like, all the work, you know, like, all the years of waiting for this, like, it's going to happen. It's going to be fantastic. And, you know, we walked in there, and I had mentally prepared myself to wipe on KT and get stuck there and have all these key players finally call it quits as we near, you know, nearly 4 months without killing KT, the second last guild on our server to eventually kill him. We killed him that night.
I'm gonna kick someone. I got it. He's dead. Oh, we got him. Oh my god. Callie.
And a monkey was off my back. I remember walking slowly around his cleared throne room and just gazing into the portals in Icecrown. I'd waited years for this moment. I had seen it in private server videos, but this was finally the real deal, and I did it with people who I truly loved with all my heart, and was so grateful to have fought through that journey with them. It was truly, you know, indescribable. And so, with all the drama, the obstacles, and headaches, was it worth it? Absolutely. And I'm gonna have to end this video with a question. Fresh when?